Hopefully, inshallah, everyone is enjoying the food. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward and bless all the families who are bringing all of this food for us. May Allah reward them, bless them, give them barakah in dunya and akhirah, in their wealth, in their rizq, and in their health, in their iman, in their time, in everything, mashallah. And may Allah have many more families like this that keep on feeding us all the time. MashaAllah. So I think I will start with here and then I will come to you, inshallah.
The question is, should we attend schools or even have our kids attend schools that involve free mixing, or would it just be better to learn at home from our parents and by ourselves? Consider the high consequence that is involved in free mixing, which still exists as a high current issue to this day.
Okay, so we have a question, and I'm going to give you the answer that you're not going to follow. But still, I will give you that answer. And then, of course, at least we talked about what we think is right, and then you pick up from there and see how to correct it. The question is, with the present environment of the schools, and especially with things that are being introduced nowadays more than ever in the public schools, should we send our children to those schools, or we should just do homeschooling type of thing and teach them at home or whatever other alternate we have, but not send them to those public schools? I think it's very, very simple and straightforward answer that every believer would know, that how could I send my children to an environment where I know for sure they will be teaching them haram things as part of the curriculum, not just as a spoiled environment. As part of the curriculum, they will teach them these things. And we know how many of those things are being taught nowadays in those schools on the name of freedom. But surprisingly, those who teach that have the freedom to teach, those who oppose it don't have the freedom to oppose. You don't even have a freedom to oppose. So what does freedom mean? And subhanallah, then you look at the environment and all of the other things that come with it. That is the purpose of the place we are sitting over here. That about 30 years ago, imagine what was the environment at that time. And our elders realized that that system and that environment is not suitable for Muslim children, so we need to have our own schools. So, you know, for the Muslims that came to these parts of the world, alhamdulillah, so many ni'mas and blessings. But if you ask any concerned Muslim of what is the greatest challenge of being in this environment, is raising our children, is the upbringing of our children. That is the most difficult challenge generally we face in this part of the world. And we have to understand that if we came here and we chose to be in this society, nothing wrong, use all the ni'mas and blessings, but then use your freedom that you have in facing the challenges in the right way, which means we will have to, of course, public schools are free, but we go to our own schools, we will have to charge. And it's going to cost money to buy the land, to have the building, to run the school. All of those challenges are there. But these challenges would come as part of all the other advantages that we have. So, a person who really is aware I don't know why, unfortunately, I see many of our people are not even aware of what's happening in the public school. I find this a very shocking truth. Many of our parents are not even aware of what's happening over there. You know, one thing, very normal, that is not considered to be no sin, no crime, nothing wrong, no one, even the people who have objection from the kuffar, who have objection to so many things over there, this is something very normal, that every boy should have a girlfriend. Isn't it? You guys go to the school, you went to the schools, you know the environment. I know this. And the person who would not have a girlfriend, parents will be approached to take him to a counselor. That, look, your child is not normal. And for sure he's not normal if he has the girl sitting next to him. And then still he doesn't look at her. He doesn't look like normal. So these are facts. So if we want to save our deen and iman and have a generation, remember this, listen to this. You want to have the next generation who have been raised with iman and taqwa, then you have to have your own environment, in which then you educate them about everything. It's not that you block their eyes and close just keep them within the four walls of that environment and then let them know what's happening outside. It's education. So you educate them the proper way, but it has to be a proper Islamic environment. There is a question from the sister side. What dua should we make for raising the good upright children, and any specific dua for their heads? I will tell you one thing before the dua. If you do not provide them with the right environment, then it's just like asking me that my child is standing in the fire and what dua should I make so that he doesn't get burned? And I don't have that dua for you. I was sending him to Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam when he was in the fire and he didn't get burned. Wait for that miracle to happen once in a lifetime. So, if the environment is not right, and then you just say, I'm going to make dua, this is fooling ourselves. We have to make sure we provide them with the right environment, that's number one. And do the proper tarbiyah. Give them the proper education. Save them from the wrong environment and wrong company. And then make dua. رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And many other du'as, but mainly dua of the parents that would come from their heart, in your own language, with that feeling of pain, of knowing what my children are going through, will have to go through in their future, and you make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your own words, in your own language. When you talk to Allah and you cry to Allah and you make dua for them, that is the best thing you are giving your children, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he mentioned 3 du'as that are not rejected, one of them is the dua of the parents for the children. But again, don't fool yourself with that. That okay, I'm going to do all, my children are okay. We have so much of this experience and example from people that a person will come and tell you, my son, my daughter, they were just went off the track, they are not listening, they don't listen anymore, I don't know what happened. He was so good, she is so good, and mashallah, you know, word I can't forget a father, parents both are sitting with me and saying, she's a malak, well, she's an angel, but she all of a sudden got a boyfriend. So remember, these things don't happen all of a sudden. It's only you found that day when they turned 18. You found that day. The things were building up in their hearts, in their mind for years and years. But they could not speak up. They could not come up and tell you. They did not dare to confront you with that until the day when they realized it's too much for me and I have the freedom now and I can be somewhere else and my friends are telling me that I can have a place with them or I can go to a shelter, but still I'm not going to listen to my parents. So now they will come and be open to you. And in that situation, I'm telling you, in that situation, with almost every parent we talk to who would come and complain about the grown-up children, how they just turned away, and now they, even to the extent, to the extreme, some of them, they don't want to be Muslims anymore, or they don't, and you tell them, okay, you have other children, yes. So why don't you take care of the other younger ones now? No, the other ones are good. So even he and she was good. And the other ones, when they will turn to that age, then you will see the reality of that also. So you take care of the other ones. No. That we can't do. They have to do whatever they're doing. We can't stop them from that. So unfortunate, very unfortunate situation. So make dua for them, but provide them with the right environment first, which means, as we say, there is dawa and there is dua. There is treatment and there is dua. So you use the right dawa, use the right medication for the illness, and then make dua also and keep your trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Through the barakah of dua, your dawa will work and it will be effective. But no medication, no treatment, nothing. I'll just make dua to Allah. You know, no, we never do that with anything in our life. When it comes to dunya, that I'm going to sit home, I'll make dua, that Allah will send me the money, I don't have to go to work. No one agrees to that. But it's only when it comes to deen that I'm going to make dua and I don't have to do anything else because Allah will take care of it. So remember, do what you need to do first and take the right steps, wise steps towards the upbringing of our children, providing them with the right environment, and then make dua for them. Dua for hifz, there is a special dua, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Of course, one, as I said, dua of the parents in general. The most important. And then there is a hadith in which Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned a dua to be recited in 4 rak'ah, as you recite 4 surahs of the Quran al-Kareem in the night of Jum'ah, and then you make dua after that, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala inshallah will open up your hifz. That dua is at the end of Fada'il al-Quran by Shaykh al-Hadith Muhammad Zakaria rahmatullah alayhi. The whole hadith is there. You can refer back to that hadith and follow the instructions that are in that hadith. That inshallah will be good, helpful for memorization of Quran.
So when it comes to backbiting, I hear a lot of people say that you don't mention the name of the person, or if you're doing it for a specific purpose, and or a lot of different reasons they give for when talking about somebody else behind their back is okay. And I just wanted to know what are the actual reasons that backbiting would not be a sin.
So the question is, we know backbiting is haram. Not only haram, it's one of the major sins in Islam. It's such a major sin that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not just tell Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to inform us that backbiting is haram. He revealed the ayah of Quran to tell us that backbiting is haram. And accordingly, scholars tell us that this is a type of sin where many people from that sin they fall into kufr also. Can you imagine? Why? Because Someone is backbiting, and you tell them this is backbiting, it's haram. They say, no, I know what I'm doing. Now you're rejecting the hukm of Allah directly. And you hear this a lot, unfortunately. Oh, I know what I'm doing. Oh, I know him very well. If you know him, and that person really does everything that you're mentioning, this is backbiting. Otherwise, it will be called buhtan, slander. And the person is really involved in the wrong that you have been mentioning about him. This is called backbiting. No reason of talking behind his back. You care about him, you worry about him, you don't like these type of sins, go and talk to him. Talk to someone who can talk to him. But there is no need of every gathering, you just keep on bringing that up and you keep on talking about those people. So now the question basically is that there are some situations in which talking about people behind their back or their faults behind their back is allowed. What would be some of those circumstances and situations? Before we get into those circumstances and situations, remember one thing. Backbiting is not just something that a person does once in a lifetime. People who do it, they develop the habit of doing it. It's a habit. And if you don't like someone, and this is the person that you hate, and you're going to keep on talking against this person all the time, when this person will die, you will find another person. So, backbiting is a habit from within the person. Just like many other habits that people develop, unfortunately, or we can say that, just like smoking and these type of things. Same thing, backbiting is just one of those. That's an addiction. It's an addiction for a person. I'm sure you may have encountered people, and may Allah protect all of us from all the bad akhlaq, but there are people who cannot live without having an enemy. It's reality. They cannot survive without having an enemy. So now, they always look for an enemy. They look for someone that they can attack. Because if there is no one that they can attack, then they're missing something in their life. So there is always something that is against them. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam's akhlaq were, subhanallah, totally the opposite. Even the enemies, he would treat them like friends. And he would do things with their enemies in a way that even enemies will become friends. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us in Quran. وَلَا تَسْتَوِي الْحَسَنَةُ وَلَا السَّيِّئَةُ. Good and evil are not alike. Idfa' billati hiya ahsan. When there is an evil, turn it away, push it away through something good, in a good way. فَإِذَا الَّذِي بَيْنَكَ وَبَيْنَهُ عَدَاوَةٌ كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. You will find the person who has animosity with you, and there is animosity between the two of you from both sides. But you controlled your nafs and started treating him in a good way, like a good person, you will become a good friend. كَأَنَّهُ وَلِيٌّ حَمِيمٌ. He will become like a good friend. Remember, this is not always the rule of every person that you treat him good will become a good friend. This also has, the other side has to have some goodness in him to accept the goodness. Otherwise, those who don't have the quality of even accepting the goodness from others, then they will continue as Prophet ﷺ's enemies continued, and there were so many of them who died as enemies. So, the point here is, there are situations where backbiting is allowed, but first thing to train yourself, say to yourself, no backbiting. That's it. Regardless of allowed, not allowed, halal, haram, I'm not doing no backbiting. Stand from there with yourself. As Mawlana Shaykh Ali Thanwi rahimahullah when he gave the example of Islah al-Nafs, and someone asked him that why some of the mashayikh, they make you go through some mujahadat and struggle that are not found in Quran and Hadith. And there is no mention of these type of extreme struggles in Quran and Hadith. So why do you make people go through those type of things? So he told the person to grab a piece of paper. He held the paper. He said, now fold it from the half. So he folded it. And he said, now make sure you just press on the line. So it's folded properly and it stays like this. So he presses on that line. And now he says, open it and keep it straight. So now when he will open it and try to keep it straight, it won't stay straight. It will bend. So he said, now the way to keep it straight is bend it to the other side. So mujahadat are bending it to the other side. So you come back straight later on. But if you say, I'm not going to bend to the other side, then you won't be able to come straight either. So these are the mujahadat. So first thing, train yourself, no backbiting. That's it. Allowed or not allowed, my nafs will find an excuse to make it allowed. Now, looking at the rule of the Sharia, in what circumstances backbiting or talking behind people's back will be allowed? That would be number one, in a situation where you have been oppressed and you're talking to people who can help you. It's not that you just, every time you hold the mic in the masjid and keep on talking. It's you talk to the people who can help you come out of that oppression. Stop that person from doing wrong to you. So you approach those people, you talk to them. It could be someone that is his elder, his teacher, his father, or you go above and it's, say for example, the judge, the ruler, whoever. You make your complaint to the right people who can help you come out of that situation and stop that person from doing zulm to you. That's number one. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned at the beginning of the 6th juz. لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم وكان الله سميعا عليما. That Allah does not like anyone speaking ill about anyone except for the person who's oppressed. Some people take this ayah and now they open the door of backbiting at all times, and you will always see them just backbiting certain people. And I see it especially in the situation of when someone breaks away from another person, from a masjid, from an organization, or husband and wife, they got divorced. Now both, for the rest of their life, will be backbiting each other because لا يحب الله الجهر بالسوء من القول إلا من ظلم. And I was oppressed, so I'm going to keep on talking against that person. Remember, on the day of Qiyam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring all of your backbiting and all the wrong that this person has done to you. And it will be both weight of which is more. You backbited the person more, you harm the person more by talking against that person, you're going to pay this person even in akhirah. And you thought that you were oppressed. So that doesn't open the door for us to just keep on talking against people. Number two, in a situation where you think someone could be harmed by this person and you want to save that person, so you can mention only as much as needed. Someone did business with you, you had a bad experience, and you know for sure that he wasn't honest, whatever, and now there is another person that he's going to be doing business with him. So you go and tell that person, listen, I had that experience and it wasn't very well, it didn't go very well, so I advise you not to get into this. I don't trust this person. But now, to start bringing the history of 20 years, and then I know this also, and I know this also, and I know his father and his mother and his wife and his children, that's not allowed. You just mention what is needed to be mentioned to protect that person. He's going to get married somewhere, or someone asks you about a person for a proposal, for business, for any of those type of situations, you give your honest opinion. That is not backbiting, but to the extent that is needed. It's not every second day now you're calling, you got an opportunity now, so you satisfied your anger now, so every second day you call him, listen, and I forgot to tell you this yesterday. This is another situation. Third situation is when a person is committing certain sins very openly in such a way that everyone can see it, so you inform people, look, this is what he's doing. And that person is not hiding it either, he's doing it in public. So a sin that he is not shy to commit publicly, he comes out openly and is doing it, and then you inform people about what he's doing, that is still acceptable. So these are few situations where that is exempt, otherwise the habit should not be there of backbiting.
Part of his question, I think, I want to ask also is, like, if we are talking right now, and the person that I'm telling you about, you don't know him, is that considered backbiting?
Yes, good. He started with that and I forgot about it, that you don't know the person. So now you're going to mention something about a person no one knows about him. Something happened back home, and you're going to just mention that as an example, that there was a person who did this, and this is what happened. If no one knows, then it's fine. You are not putting anyone down. You are just mainly quoting a situation, an incident, and setting that as an example for people. But sometimes we all know the person. I'm not going to tell you his name. I won't tell you his name. And I just tell you everything that everyone knows who we are talking about.
Figure it out.
But I'm not going to tell you his name. You know, I don't want to backbite. MashaAllah, you're very pious. Sometimes we are even more pious than this. We are talking about a person and you hate that person. Your feeling is there. And, oh, just forget it. I don't want to backbite him. I don't want to backbite him. You're, mashallah, very pious. You said everything and worse than what you could have said. You made people imagine every evil about him. I don't want to backbite him. What does that mean? You already mentioned everything. That is backbiting. That you make people feel that this is an evil man. This is a wrong person. This is bad man, bad person. I don't want to backbite him. This is what I don't want to backbite him refers to. This is also backbiting.
The point you mentioned, and we sometimes get into this with our elders sometimes. I was like, nahi, main to वैसी बात करो plus मैं उसके मुंह पे कह दूं. No, I'm just saying I'd say it to their face.
Exactly. That's another excuse that we use. Oh, I can say it on his face. Yeah. Okay, so right now you're backbiting, then you can go and then slander and argue and fight and do all of that also. So add sins to your sins. Yeah. But I can say it on his face doesn't make this allowed. Yeah. Your backbiting does not become allowed by saying that I can say it on his face. And this is another excuse that people find for ghibah, for backbiting, that okay, is justified because I can say it on his face. But right now, you have to accept the hukum of Allah is haram.
I want to be more specific. So you made an example that, okay, generally there's person in another country. What if I'm telling you a story, let's say you know my brother, but you never met his wife. So now I'm telling you, you know my brother's wife, she did this, she did that, or this and that. Now you don't know her, I didn't take the name, is it backbiting?
Right. That is backbiting because you did mention a person. Whether I know the person or not, at least you mentioned the person. So mentioning the person, specifying the person, or letting people know who the person is, or people knowing who the person is all part of backbiting.
So the identity doesn't matter.
Public figures, yeah.
Public figures. This is where the door opens up.
Fair game.
That all the rulers of the world, we are going to sit and backbite them. because they are doing all the haram.
Yeah.
This is where we started from. You don't want to have that habit of backbiting. You don't want to be that person. Let someone else do that. A lot of people have news channels, they have their, YouTube channels, and they have newspapers. Let them write, let them say. You don't want to be that person who just takes this upon himself that I'm going to just talk against every ruler in the world. Imam Qurtubi rahimahullah narrates in his tafsir, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, when you have rulers that are not the right rulers for the ummah, فَلَا تُشْغِلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ بِالدُّعَاءِ عَلَيْهِمْ. Don't waste your time of even praying against them and talking about them. Rather, make dua for them and fix your deeds so that Allah will fix your rulers. This person, that person, whichever person you have in your mind, rulers, he should bring Islam in the world. MashaAllah. In which world? In the whole country. You know, he has so much, he runs the country, he has so much say in that country. Okay, let's go to your home, which is only 2,000 square feet, and only 5 members of the house, in the family. Did we bring Islam in these 5 members of our family within the 2,000 square feet of our home? And then we expect that person to bring Islam in the whole country? If this 2,000 square feet cannot have Islam, then how would Islam come in the whole country? So we don't want to start from ourselves. We were in a gallery where someone was saying the same thing. You know, this ruler, there were a few brothers who, mashallah, were very emotional about the politics of the world. So I liked one of the scholars sitting there. He said, listen, I'll give you a solution. 2 by 6. Get a land of 2 feet by 6 feet. He said, bring Islam into that piece of land of 2 by 6. I guarantee you Islam will come in the whole world. And everyone was shocked. What, 2 by 6? What does that mean? He said, your body is less than 2 by 6. Bring Islam in your life, it will come in the whole world. If every Muslim will bring it in his life, there will be Islam in the whole world. But we are not willing to bring it in 2 by 6, and we want them to bring it in the whole country. So, فَلَا تَشْغِلُوا أَنفُسَكُمْ. Don't waste your time, just keep on talking about those things. Yes, sometimes it hurts, sometimes there are feelings behind it. Sometimes you feel that we need to share some information of what's happening in the country. That's totally different. But just a habit of talking against the rulers and not even caring about what my a'mal are and what is happening in my home. I remember, subhanallah, and this is again, comes into that, this is backbiting, but again, no one knows the person. I'm talking about something totally far. A person, mashallah, in the masjid, fixing every person. He sees any mistake in anyone, he's gonna shout at you. That was the personality. It's something that I know personally. I know the person personally. He would not tolerate any smallest mistake from anyone in the masjid. He will yell at you. His son is living with a girlfriend in an apartment that he pays the rent for. He pays the rent for his son to live in that apartment with a girlfriend. Yelling at everyone in the masjid. How does that make sense? You're accepting, promoting zina, and then you shout at the small sunnahs and adab in the masjid. So that's something I cannot understand. So remember, it's not that we just keep ourselves busy with looking at the mistakes of people, even if they are public figures and rulers. Although we will not say that if they are public figures and they're doing something wrong, we cannot mention any wrong that they're mentioning. But there are enough people to talk about it. You don't be that person who just wastes your time in these things.
Is it sunnah to recite Quran like from memory to another person? And is there any benefit to reciting Quran from memory to another person than just reciting Quran from memory to yourself?
Is it sunnah to recite Quran from memory to another person? And is there a benefit of reciting it to another person than to recite it to yourself? No. Yes, it is sunnah. Every Ramadan, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to revise Quran with Jibreel alayhi salatu wassalam. And the last Ramadan of Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, this is when he called Fatima radiallahu anha. He said, Fatima, Jibreel used to come to me and we used to recite Quran to each other once. This year, he said, we will revise the whole Quran twice. That's an indication to me that time for me to leave. So, that is also part of the Sunnah, to read Quran to each other. The benefit, many times we don't catch our own mistakes, so the other person will be able to catch the mistake. This is for us. The other person will be able to catch the mistake. You spend more time with Quran reading and then listening, because you read it to each other. And then, sometimes Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam enjoyed listening to the Quran from others. As once he called Sayyidina Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu. He said, read the surah to me. Ubay ibn Ka'b radiallahu anhu said, أَعَلَيْكَ أَقْرَأُ وَعَلَيْكَ أُنزَلْ Ya Rasulullah, it's revealed to you. And I read it to you, Ya Rasulullah. He said, إِنِّي أُحِبُّ أَنْ أَسْمَعَهُ مِنْ غَيْرِي. I like to hear it from someone else. So listening to the Quran is also an enjoyment. So you get that also as part of revising the Quran with someone else.
What happens to a soul, or where does the soul return to for a person whose body has been burned to ashes or drowned, or someone who gets blown into pieces like Gaza? What happens to someone whose body gets burned into ashes or blown into pieces like in Palestine? What happens to the soul? Where does it go?
So the question is, what happens to the soul of those people whose body is totally dismantled, turns into ashes? So, what happens to the soul of those people? Remember, when we say body getting back to the soul after death, this is not necessarily as literal as it sounds, that the whole body has to be intact. The soul getting back to the body is not as literal as it sounds. There is that period of time between our death till the day of resurrection is called Alamul Barzakh. وَمِن وَرَائِهِمْ بَرْزَخٌ إِلَى يَوْمِ يُبْعَثُونَ. There is barzakh after them that will be there till the day of resurrection. So this is barzakh. In barzakh, soul is the main thing that will be treated by the angels, or all the treatment there over there is to the soul. And the body gets the feeling of it. Doesn't have to be intact. That body, even if it burned into ashes, is still, the body is there. In whichever form it may be. It may be scattered all over. Just like there is a hadith in Bukhari, a man who said to his children that what type of father was I was to you. And they said, the best father, they admired him. He said, okay, I have a final will to make to you guys. I'm too afraid to be presented to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I'm not worthy of being presented to Allah. So when I die, burn my body into ashes, and then spread the ashes to different hills and mountains and valleys. Because, فَوَاللَّهِ لَإِن قَدِرَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِ, I swear if Allah will have control over me after I die, Allah will punish me a very bad punishment. Children fulfilled the wasiyah and the will of their father after he died. Kun fayakun, he died, Allah calls the body, come, and is standing in front of Allah. Allah said, what was the final will that you made? Ya Allah, you know it was only out of your fear. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to him that because you did it out of my fear, I'll save you from the thing that you were afraid of. No punishment. Of course, Prophet ﷺ is telling us this from the previous ummah. A person who may be in a position where he had no knowledge, no access to that information, and therefore ignorant, doesn't know that Allah will just kun fayakun and will bring him back. So, don't read that portion and say, okay, that person was kafir now. Because he didn't believe that Allah can bring him back together. So, the point here is, Allah can bring it back together regardless of in which form that is. Long time back, there was a Hindu in India. He was trying to raise as many objections against Islam as he could. And he wrote books on this. One of the objections he raised, that if a person was eaten up by a lion, by a beast, or by a fish, and he is kafir, and you Muslim believe that the person is punished after he dies, if he will die as a kafir or munafiq, there is punishment. So now, the beast ate up this man. The fish ate up this man. And he is part of that fish, is part of that beast. And this person is having adab al-qabr. This is what that person is saying. According to your belief, this person is having azab al-qabr. So the lion should be crying and shouting and jumping all the time because there is azab al-qabr in his stomach. The fish, how would it survive after this? There is azab al-qabr going in the stomach of the fish. Why the fish doesn't feel it? Why the beast doesn't feel it? But of course, you don't try to understand Allah's knowledge with our limited understanding. And nowadays the answer is very, very simple. Someone is sick. They say there is a lot of bacteria in your stomach or in your wound, on your arm, in your somewhere. There is bacteria. So what to do, doc? He says take antibiotics. What would the antibiotic would do? There are millions of bad bacteria inside you. This antibiotic will kill all of those bad bacteria. Isn't it? Agreed? Now, how many millions of lives are dying as a result of that medication that you're taking and you are feeling better? You are not feeling the pain. They are suffering to death. And they are inside you. They are part of you. They are in your blood. And rather than feeling the pain, you are feeling better. This is simple. So that can happen over there too. That the beast, the fish, the animal would not have any feeling of this, what this person is feeling. And that person, only that portion of the person is having that feeling. But the point is, in alam al-barzakh, the body doesn't have to be intact for it to feel. Rather, every body generally is decomposed after some time. Depends on where and which country and the weather and all of that. In some countries, within 6 months, it's decomposed. Other places, over here, if it is winter, it will be freezer down there. So the body will be there for 6 months at least, and then it may stand. But the point is, after some time, be it 2 years or 3 years, it will become dust. But still, the treatment of good or bad is going on till the day of resurrection, or until the time will come. We normally call it the day of resurrection, but really, it's before the day of resurrection when the first trumpet is blown, up to that point. After that, everyone is totally dead. But up to that point, everything will have that feeling, good or bad, and the body doesn't have to be intact for that. Because the main treatment is to the ruh, is not to the body.
Sheikh, so sometimes you have people when they think of like the akhirah, or they want to get close to Allah, but sometimes they have something in them that pushes them away from Islam. And it reminds me of the dua that Allahumma karrih ilayna al-kufra wal-fusuqa wal-isyan. So there's people who love Islam, there's people who hate Islam. So how do you avoid like hating Islam or hating the things that are beloved to Allah and loving the things that are beloved to Allah?
The question is, once you have the hidayah, how to be firm on the hidayah so that you don't lose it and you don't start going away from hidayah and from the tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are certain elements that will be very helpful in making sure that we protect ourselves, our iman, ourselves from all the fitnas that will be attacking our deen and iman. The most important of those is, of course, these du'as. رَبَّنَا لَا تُزِغْ قُلُوبَنَا بَعْدَ إِذْ هَدَيْتَنَا وَهَبْ لَنَا مِن لَّدُنكَ رَحْمَةً إِنَّكَ أَنتَ الْوَهَّابُ اللهم إني أعوذ بك من الحول بعد الكور يا مثبت القلوب ثبت قلبي على دينك يا مصرف القلوب صرف قلبي على طاعتك. These du'as that are basically are for this purpose of remaining firm on our deen and iman and hidayah. These du'as are very important, especially in our time when there is so much attack on our deen and iman. It's very important that we all be in the habit of reciting specifically these du'as with keeping the meaning in our mind. Number two, as we said earlier, with du'a there is dawa, there is treatment. We have to take certain steps, use certain means to protect ourselves from falling into that type of situation. One of the things is keeping ourselves in the right environment. Keeping your connection with the right environment is a great protection of deen and iman. As soon as we break off from the proper environment, right there, shaitan will get full control over the person. And as the hadith says, that shayateen then play with the person like people play with the ball, like children play with the ball. Everyone is kicking it from here to there. Shayateen play with this person's mind like that, and they keep on kicking him here and there. And we keep on bouncing between all of these doubts about Islam and against Islam and all of these objections and all the wrong information, and the person keeps on bouncing between those things. So keep yourself in a good environment. And very important, although it may not be very easy to digest, but I'm telling you, each and every one of us, we need a strong connection with some of the pious people, some of the ulama around us. When you have that, then you know that your heart is connected to some of the pious people. That will be a great protection for us from falling off the track. Number 4, 3, 4, whatever. Number 4, don't look towards the fitnas. Don't go towards them. Don't go to the websites where they are asking and raising objections, thinking, okay, let me see what they have to say. This is not my field, this is not your field. Let the people of that field handle it. If I want to know, I will ask the person who studied that field, and I will ask him, what are some of the objections that you heard, and can you please answer those to me also? But for me to start going there, and then worse than this, we go there and then we start even trying to answer those objections. Now pretend that I am one of the genius people in the world that know my Islam better than everyone else, and I can answer all of those objections, and after a few questions from that person, the person is flat, fell down, and then he starts having objection in his own mind. He loses deen and iman. Prophet ﷺ, when he talked about Dajjal and his fitna, he said, Man istashrafa laha istashrafat lahu. The fitna of Dajjal is such, whoever will look at it, that fitna will come and get him. So he said, stay away from it. Don't even try to fight it. Just go. Move away. Protect yourself. That's it. So it's very important that we don't go to the places of fitna. We don't involve ourselves into those type of fitnas, any type of those situations that will lead us into that fitna. So that is a great protection. These are few steps. If we take them, inshallah, these will be a great protection for us. Wa sallallahu ta'ala ala khayri khalqihi sayyidina wa habibina wa nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in walhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. I know there are 4 or 5 hands going up, but inshallah, we still have 5 days. So, and then the day of Eid, I'm here also, inshallah.